to InfoHub Recap. We look back at the past week's main issues. In our headlines, President David Granger reiterated the administration's commitment to local democracy. 10 indigenous leaders honored. GPL ramps up efforts to address electricity woes in Region 2. Guyana and Trinidad signed MOU, and 2019 budget consultations wrap up. These stories and much more in this week's InfoHub Recap. First, we tell you that 10 indigenous leaders were honored for their years of contribution towards community development at the celebration of the life and work of the first indigenous parliamentarian, Stephen Campbell. Here's more in this report.
The indigenous leaders were lauded for their contribution in health, education, and community development. They shared their pride at having been honored. While some have retired, they are still actively contributing to their communities.
I feel good. I really feel good. Really, really good. Because having some of my little children from Monkey Mountain, the students, also my grandson, Ravindra Dalchan, and our teacher, and they're here to see me, and I feel really good. And some of my relatives too.
Working in the health field, I always enjoy helping people, and up to now, even though I'm retired, I still give a helping hand in the areas of health. I do blood pressure testing freely. I also help young people to counsel them when they have issues, and also elderly people and their family.
In his address, Minister Sidney Alcock described Stephen Campbell as a visionary.
He was a visionary. He knew what he was speaking about.
Minister Gridelo noted the importance of today's celebration for the indigenous peoples.
Today is a very, very important day to the indigenous people of Guyana and Guyanese on the whole. Stephen Campbell was a powerful warrior. Was not a tall man, but he was a giant in representing his people.
The late Stephen Campbell, Guyana's first Amerindian parliamentarian, is widely regarded as a hero by the indigenous communities, and his achievements are celebrated on September 10 every year as part of activities to commemorate Indigenous Heritage Month. Sineca Thorne, InfoHub.
A health management committee has been installed for the Linden Hospital complex and surrounding hospitals.
The Linden Hospital Complex's Health Management Committee has been reconstituted under the auspices of Minister of Public Health, Valda Lawrence. This followed a request by the Minister to Cabinet.
There has been issues not only from this end, but also at the ministry's end. So it's more than one person in the boat or one group in the boat. I expect that you will reach outside of government to try to alleviate some of the issues which confronts the health sector at the Linden Hospital complex because of a few things. One, we don't have the physical space. Two, we can't do it alone.
Mortimer Mingo, the committee's chairperson, said the body will collaborate with the regional administration and those outside of the committee via consultations, making the decision-making process easier.
We will endeavor to do exactly what you would expect us to do, and that is to really assist in the robust delivery of health care services to the people of Linden and Region 10 through the Linden Hospital Complex.
The minister and Mingo explained that the newly reconstituted committee is constituency-based and comprises of 15 members inclusive of, but not limited to persons within the medical fraternity. For InfoHub, Delicia Haynes.
Chief Executive Officer of the Guyana Power and Light Incorporated, Albert Gordon, met with the Region 2 administration to listen to concerns and discuss the way forward as the Guyana Power and Light Incorporated ramps up efforts to address electricity issues in Region 2.
Meeting with Regional Vice Chairman Juliet Kunja and Councillor at the Regional Democratic Council's office in Anna Regina, GPL's CEO explained that successfully delivering a stable power supply to its customers is paramount.
Success is in our vision statement, and it's an acronym. And the first, I won't go through all of them, but the first letter is for service quality. And the second one is for uptime of our systems. Others being, I'll just say, coverage, meaning access, compliance with applicable regulations, efficiency, safety, security, and sustainability.
Discussions focused on the type of units being used, the effectiveness of renting units as opposed to owning, and compensation for losses during recent power outages, among others. Gordon responded to the questions and assured that Anna Regina will see a continued improvement in the service.
We're looking at the future developments. We want to understand the plans. We want to be part of those plans. We want to be ahead of those plans in terms of installing new capacity. And we also want to facilitate even developments that have not been thought up as yet, because that is in our mutual interest. Our mandate is to support the development of the country. That's my mission, by providing affordable and reliable energy services.
Meanwhile, Essequibo residents are being urged to uplift claim forms at GPL's office for any damage suffered during the recent power outages. Renetta LaFleur for InfoHub.
Tuesday was day 3 of Budget 2019 consultations, and meetings were held with the Private Sector Commission and Guyana Manufacturing and Services Association. Minister Jordan says he is pleased with the tone and pace of the consultations.
The minister and his budget team met with the Private Sector Commission and the Guyana Manufacturing and Services Association, respectively.
I like the positive attitude of the private sector. I perhaps know what is perhaps bringing it, and I'm happy. For the first time, I've seen the private sector, for example, in the Private Sector Commission, actually telling us that they're prepared to do certain things, and they said publicly that they're willing to support us. Particularly the local content one, that was for me a bit surprising, given what we will be hearing. But that is a real positive development. I also like the whole tone of these discussions. They are more engaging.
Minister Jordan described the consultations as a meeting of the minds.
There's a bigger willingness of the private sector to engage with the government, and we have stressed this public-private partnership in a number of ways with the private sector, with the Private Sector Commission. We've worked with the Guyana Manufacturing Services Association. In fact, this is the only body that we have round tables going. And as you could have seen, it has worked very well for them. They've got quite a few benefits. I'm looking to see more benefits for them in the upcoming budget. Some of them we can work with, others we perhaps will work around and tinker with.
The day's consultations began with a presentation from the PSC led by Chairman Desmond Sears. Sears said that a priority for the Commission was the formulation of local content policy, particularly within the oil and gas industry.
We're asking the Minister to maybe speak to Minister of Business to accelerate the process. In other words, you can always change. It could be an evolving policy. You could always make changes as you go down the road, but we would want before 2019, especially before oil production, that we have a local government policy, local content policy, which would more or less set the stage for locals to participate in the oil and gas industry.
The GSMA's consultations followed, with executives making cases for tax relief in several sectors and the expansion of the tax net in others. There were also calls for revised legislation and the need for the Guyana Revenue Authority to monitor overseas companies for the possible dumping of cheaper products, which could be detrimental to local manufacturers. Requests were also made for more government support towards the hosting and expansion of the Uncapped Expo, which has been a success since being implemented. Budget 2019 consultations continue on September 12th at the Finance Ministry's boardroom. Paul McAdam for InfoHub.
With Budget 2019 just over 2 months away, Finance Minister Winston Jordan is backing local businesses. On Tuesday, he committed to helping local businesses' expansion of their Buy Local initiatives while visiting Sterling Products Limited. Here are the details.
The minister was given a tour of the company's operations at Providence on the east bank of the Marara. The visit provided a better appreciation of some of the challenges and issues facing the company, according to the finance minister.
I think we get a better understanding. Some on the spot we can solve, and some we have to go and convince colleagues and so on. But at the end of the day, let us say that before I came you had zero, but afterwards you have hopes of moving from zero.
Minister Jordan added that he got a better understanding of what the company was producing and how it can be supported, especially with its buy local effort.
Very often I don't see the commitment there, and the private sector, which should be a paragon here, they themselves are some of the culprits in not buying local. We at our level at Cabinet, we have signaled that wherever something exists locally, it should have the fortune. You know, all of our printing, government printing is done now at national printers to the extent that they can do it. But they have, of course, preference on printing. Otherwise, they will go to the local before they could do it.
Explaining that oil revenues will have a part to play in diversifying the economy, Minister Jordan said that in this year's budget, he hopes to reflect, like previous ones, initiatives to support the local manufacturing sectors.
But it's my second visit, 50 years apart. I was forced here in 1967, and I've passed here many times, of course, but this is my second visit, roughly 50 years afterwards. And I really like what I saw today. There's a lot going on in these premises, and I like what I'm hearing also about the expansion plans. And I can commit now to you that the government will support you in your expansion and in your drive to expand your markets and to improve your efficiency and cost of production.
Sterling Products is a leading manufacturer and marketer of food products and cleaning agents for local and international markets. Similar visits are planned by the Minister to Banks DIH and other local manufacturers. Paul McCallum for InfoHub.
The Indian Immigration Monument will be up before the end of the year. Construction of the base at Palmyra Village, just across the Berbice Bridge, has commenced and is progressing smoothly.
The work on the monument is divided into 8 lots. These include construction of the monument's base and podium, a walkway, landscaping details, internal drainage, roadway, lighting, visitors gallery, security hut, and fencing. MOPI's Clerk of Works, Elroy Haynes.
We already have the foundation in, we have the curb wall, now we're doing the stairs and the first floor slab. Now we plan to get that done by Thursday, Friday. And from there, we would go on the second floor. That's the floor to actually bear the monument. So hopefully we should get that in by actually end of the month.
With funding for its completion coming from the Government of India, the project is expected to be finished in early November. Haynes said lots 1 and 2 are almost completed.
We have lot 3 on board also. Lot 3 which entails the fence, the fencing. Now to date we already got the eastern section, the southern section. Got it in. Not fully complete. Those 2 sections like about basically like 60 to 70% complete. And we have some more fine work to do there. And then we got the other 2 sections, which is the northern section and the western section. That is where we will start working on in due course.
The monument is sculpted in bronze and is a visual representation of ordinary Indian people in routine everyday life. Renetta LaFleur for InfoHub.
On Wednesday, President David Granger put a timeline to the establishment of the proposed Ministry of Petroleum, saying that it is likely to come on stream in 2020 when oil production starts. Stacey Carmichael reports.
President Granger at his August 31 press conference had announced his administration's plan to have a new ministry established to manage the petroleum sector. Today, speaking on the sidelines of the swearing-in of the Police Complaints Authority, the president said at this stage the government does not want to establish a new ministry, owing to the fact that the Department of Energy is now being operationalized.
In terms of its organization, administration, legislation, so it has a lot of work to do. So it probably will not be before 2020 that a full-blown ministry could be established. Even if we wanted to do it, I think it would be a rush job. It would be hasty to attempt to do it.
The president added that the Department of Energy is currently assembling a team of international experts. He believes that a 2-year period is adequate before establishing an effective and efficient ministry to manage the petroleum sector. At his press conference on August 31, the head of state disclosed that the Department of Energy is an interim measure since a small unit within the Ministry of Natural Resources did not have the capacity to bear the burden of a world-class petroleum industry.
The decision on the 1st of August came about as a result of the Minister of Natural Resources' request to Cabinet that the portfolio or the responsibility for petroleum be removed from the Ministry of Natural Resources, and it was on that basis that the decision was made to set up a Department of Energy. The Department of Energy itself is just, I would say, an interim measure. In due course, we hope to have a ministry responsible for the petroleum industry. It is too large.
For InfoHub, Stacey Carmichael.
Minister of State Joseph Harmon met with the ESSO Exploration Vice President Mike Cousins, who is in Guyana, and discussed plans to enhance technical vocational training. Here is Stacey again.
Minister Harmon, during a meeting today with ESSO Exploration Executive Vice President Mike Cousins, ExxonMobil's Country Manager Rod Henson, and Senior Director ExxonMobil Deidre Moe, said government is committed to enhancing the technical training provided at the TVET centers across the country. This, he noted, is to ensure citizens take advantage of the opportunities that will become available locally with the emergence of the petroleum sector.
We really want to have a fresh look at the way we train our technical people at the technical institutes all across the country, because we believe there are great opportunities at not necessarily a very high level, but at the low levels where that kind of skill is required. Certainly welders, painters, blasters, masons, carpenters, that level of skill, because what it does is that it absorbs some of those persons who might not be able to get a higher jobs. It absorbs them into a pool of resource which we can utilize for not only here in Guyana, but in the wider CARICOM region.
At the secondary level, Minister Harmon said government is also looking at the reintroduction of industrial arts into the curriculum.
We have to admit that not all of us are inclined in one way academically, and therefore we must create opportunities for those persons who might not have actually had that skill. Additionally, there are people, some of our young women who might have had early pregnancies. We would need to have them back again into the system and to create an atmosphere which facilitates that. It's a reality of life that women do get pregnant, and young girls also do get pregnant. And so we have to make facilities to, even after they're delivered their babies, to be able to assimilate them into our education system.
Exxon's country manager Rod Henson expressed the company's willingness to continue working with the government and the Department of Energy. Minister Harmon also restated government's commitment to protecting the environment and updated the team on the progress of the Green State Development Strategy, GSDS, to be completed shortly. For InfoHub, Stacey Carmichael.
Total Tech Academy to train 100 Guyanese with skills needed to work in the oil and gas industry by year end. Prime Minister Moses Nagamutu was taken on a familiarization tour of Total Tech by Chief Executive Officer Lars Mangal.
Chief Executive Officer of Total Tech, Lars Mangal, described safety as one of the core components of training. During a familiarization tour of the facilities in Houston on the east bank of Demerara, Mangal told Prime Minister Moses Nagamutu that recruits are trained practically.
Here we're looking at all the proactive reporting. So that's an important element of the training that we do, is that we encourage people to report things and to identify risks and hazards so that we can prevent incidents from happening. So it's almost your first barrier to safety is to have a well-informed recruit, employee, graduate working for you so that they can anticipate and spot hazards before they become, and risks before they become issues.
The CEO emphasized once trainees have graduated, they will be employed within the oil and gas sector.
So we actually employ them and then give them a salary and put them through the training, and then deploy them and give them a career orientation into the industry. So we align them with companies that are recruiting, we align them with career and interviewing skills, so then they can perform and find employment through our efforts, and in some cases under contracts with us to the various companies.
Mangle stated that continued developments are being made at the facilities. This is as Total Tech partners with companies with an interest in the petroleum sector to establish a fully functional state-of-the-art shore-based facility. For InfoHub, Anara Khan.
The Ministry of Public Health signed an MOU with the Austrian Federal Ministry for Transport, Innovation and Technology, which will see enhancement to our healthcare system.
The Memorandum of Understanding signed between the two countries will boost quality healthcare for all Guyanese, according to Minister of Public Health Valda Lawrence.
Through this strategic guidance and direction of the Ministry of Public Health, it is anticipated that the agreements on projects that will develop Guyana's public health facilities will show that we are that government which we said we are, a caring government, as we work towards improving the availability and access to quality health care in a timely fashion.
Head of Staff of the Federal Ministry for Transport, Innovation and Technology of Austria, Dr. Gernot Grimm, said it is about improving people's lives.
I'm also more than happy that we could succeed in incorporating already concrete projects to be implemented underneath the just signed MOU to show the public, I mean not only the politicians but also the peoples involved, our people in Austria and your people here in Guyana, that we not only want to sign papers, but we want to really implement projects.
The MOU aims to enhance the public health sector's infrastructure, technology, and human resource development. For InfoHub, Anara Khan.
The Police Complaints Authority is now in place. Retired High Court Judge William Ramlal was sworn in by President David Granger. We now bring you that report.
President Granger said the Police Complaints Authority was constituted in accordance with the provisions of the law and in keeping with his government's commitment to increasing public trust in the Guyana Police Force.
The authority is vested with powers to receive complaints of specified cases of misconduct by members of the police force and supervise the investigation of certain serious crimes alleged to have been committed by members of the police force.
Justice William Ramlal was appointed in accordance with the Police Complaints Authority Act, which states that the authority will consist of one person appointed by the President from among persons who have been or are qualified to be a puisne judge of the High Court. The authority, President Granger said, can assist with improving the level of trust between the police and the public.
The authority is a critical link between the police and the public. It provides a means through which the public can have its grievances against police malpractice addressed in an impartial manner by an independent person.
The head of state noted that the authority is a public defense and allows citizens to hold the members of the Guyana Police Force accountable for their actions. It can engender greater public trust in the force by ensuring it is in conformity with human rights, including the right to life and liberty, President Granger highlighted. The Police Complaints Authority will be in effect for a period of 3 years. Prime Minister Moses Nagamutu, State Minister Joseph Harmon, and other senior officials attended the swearing-in ceremony. For InfoHub, Stacey Carmichael.
The Competition and Consumer Affairs Commission conducted an inspection exercise at random clothing stores around Georgetown with the aim of ensuring that businesses are following the Consumers Affairs Act. Crystal Stull has this report.
Consumer Affairs Officer Fiona Paul explained the inspection exercise originally began in Bartica and will be conducted countrywide.
We're speaking to the owners and we're verifying whether or not they're in compliance with each section, which speaks to receipts, warranties, return and refund policies, and pricing, different aspects. And what we're also doing is informing businesses that are not aware of what their obligations should be.
She noted since the previous inspection exercise, many businesses are coming on board with the Act. Paul believes this is due to the Commission's public awareness campaigns.
People are more aware now of what they should do, suppliers that is, and especially in the no refund signs. I'm not seeing much around the areas that we examined. I don't know other areas in Georgetown if they are those signs up, but we will be checking all over. In terms of the other aspects, people are in compliance, some are not. So they're either being issued with a compliance form or a non-compliance notice, which gives them a period of time to get in compliance.
Communications Officer of the Commission, Alison Parker, said consumers must understand their basic rights.
What I want to say to consumers is that there's this act that gives you your rights, your power. I've seen people commenting that only in America you can return and have a refund and so on. I want to say to consumers in Guyana, there is a law that gives you the right to refund and return and a right to warranty, and you should use it.
Parker added that consumer rights do come with certain obligations that must be maintained. Extracts of the Act were also distributed to the suppliers to ensure they are aware of their obligations. Consumers are asked to make reports to the Commission if suppliers are not in compliance with the Act. Reporting for InfoHub, Crystal Stahl.
On Thursday, Minister of Finance Winston Jordan continued meeting with stakeholders as Budget 2019 preparations continue to move apace. He discussed the sensitive issue of taxes with the private sector. Details in this report.
The minister and his budget team met with executives of the Guyana Gold and Diamond Miners Association and the Georgetown Chambers of Commerce and Industry, respectively.
The familiar game is there, where requests are being made for significant concessions in a number of areas. But I keep stressing that if we give concessions, what are we getting in return for them? That is still an open book question, but we promise them we will take all of their suggestions, recommendations in the context of the Budget 2019, and to the extent that we can fulfill them, we will, whether partially or whole.
Minister Jordan reminded that all concessions should be tied to performance.
We don't just give concessions which are reliefs in certain areas, but an expense to the average citizen. We don't just give it because of that. We expect a benefit down the road, so that in the case of the gold sector, the concessions that we have given, we expect they will result in improved mining practices, improved declarations, and hence improved foreign currency to the Bank of Guyana, and taxation and taxes for the government.
The day's consultation started with presentations by GGDMA's chairman, Terence Adams. Adams noted that of priority was the need to add the wording of final tax in the 2018 budget with regards to miners, which he said is causing great uncertainty within the sector. The removal of value-added taxes on excavators and all-terrain vehicles, once certain levels of gold and diamond production declarations are achieved, was discussed. The GC&CI's consultations followed with executives making cases for tax relief in several sectors. These included the need for more farm-to-market roads in Regions 3 and 5, tax relief on pesticides, passage of e-commerce legislation, tax reform, local content legislation's passage, and modernized financial services legislation. Budget 2019 consultations continue today at the Finance Ministry's boardroom from 2 p.m. Check our website www.dpi.gov.gy for further details. Crystal Stahl for InfoHub.
Local government elections is November 12th, and President David Granger wants you to be involved. This was his message to residents of Sisters Village. Anira Khan was on the east bank of Berbice and has a report.
The head of state was at the time speaking at a community meeting in Sisters Village on the east bank of Berbice.
One of the problems in East Berbice County is the low level of participation in both general and regional elections and local government elections over the years. So the first thing I want to ask you to do in this community is to carry out a massive mobilization exercise so that every adult is brought into the web of local government elections, understands the need for local government elections, participates in local government elections.
The president further explained the importance of governance at the local level.
In local government elections, you don't vote for race. You don't even vote for political party. You vote for your community. You vote to improve out there and fighting for the issues that concern you.
The head of state reminded the residents that for there to be upward movement after local government elections, there must be constant engagement between residents to find solutions to issues on all levels. He reminded residents that unlike regional and general elections, voting must be done in the community in which they were registered. Local government elections will be held on November 12, 2018. This is the second LGE conducted since the government took office in 2015. For InfoHub, Anara Khan.
On Friday, the parliamentary opposition was a no-show for Budget 2019 consultations. However, the Guyana Association of Bankers did have their say. More from Paul McAdam.
The representatives of the Guyana Association of Bankers included Bank of Baroda's Managing Director Aaron Kumar Gupta, Guyana Bank of Trade and Industries Executive Director Richard Isava, Citizens Bank's Managing Director Ethan Chester, Tamara Bank's Chief Executive Officer Pravin Dave, Republic Bank Branch Operations Manager Jadinath Prasad, and Managing Director and Association President Richard Sami. Sami described the meeting as very fruitful.
We are looking forward to working very closely with the Ministry of Finance and the government, focusing on areas such as incentives for renewable energy and adoption of the green economy in business, as well as the deepening of the financial services sector in order to be able to offer greater investment, not just for corporations, but also for individuals, and also the modernization of the financial services sector with a greater use of technology vis-a-vis the national payments, as well as legislation which can promote greater investment in Guyana with the banks, with the commercial banks.
The next round of consultations scheduled was with the parliamentary opposition. They were no show. Finance Minister Winston Jordan said it was not totally unexpected.
Ever since 2015, when they first showed up, they haven't showed up. Subsequently, despite being invited, we were to have a meeting this morning at 10. Right now, I think it's after 10:40. There are virtually no shows. It's not a case they didn't get the invitation. My secretary confirms that they did receive the invitation, and these were sent out on August the 27th. So it's not a question that they didn't get it. So it must have been a conscious decision not to cooperate with the government in keeping what they have said.
According to the minister, a golden opportunity was missed.
I know this is an indication that sometimes they shout on the rooftop about lack of consultation and so on, but when opportunities are presented, they don't show up. It's also seen in their lack of taking up their seats on boards and commissions and so on, which have been allocated to them. It obviously is part of their non-cooperation stance, but we as a government, we have, in spite of this level of non-cooperation, we have marched on, we have been elected to do a job, and we will continue to do the job to the best of our abilities.
And as for the actual date of the 2019 budget presentation before the National Assembly, the Finance Minister had this to say.
The budget will be presented in November. Usually budget is presented on a Monday. So pick a date in November.
From the Finance Ministry on Main Street, Georgetown, Paul McAdam for InfoHub.
President David Granger reiterated the administration's commitment to local democracy based on its belief that the system of public administration rests at the local level. Stacey has more.
President David Granger, who is chairman of a Partnership for National Unity, APNU, said true democracy prevails at the local level. Against this background, the coalition government the president explained is giving power to the people to determine how services and resources that affect their lives will be utilized. He was speaking at the launching of the APNU's local government elections campaign.
After local government elections were held in 2016, we see how it became a vehicle through which the process of democratic renewal began. LG moved the country, especially the rural areas and municipalities, from despair to democracy. We now have a situation in which local leaders could discuss, debate, and decide how their communities will be governed. The obnoxious interim management committees of the previous regime are now history.
The president underscored the importance of a harmonious relationship between all three tiers of governance: central government, regional administration, and local democratic organs.
Our partnership is embedded in all local democratic areas, and with the people's cooperation, it is solving problems that affect the people's everyday lives. More local authority areas now have street lights, potable water, potable water supply, and all-weather roads for the first time in human memory.
The coalition, President Granger said, will adhere to an empowerment policy that regularly renews local democracy by ensuring local government elections are held when they are constitutionally due. The APNU will be contesting in 76 local authority areas at the LGE on November 12. For InfoHub, Stacey Carmichael.
You have been watching InfoHub Recap, where we share the past week's top stories. Goodbye.